Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Crown and today we are going to have some more stories that I hope that you will enjoy. But before we start, it will be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go! First story. My boyfriend organized a sting operation against the guy who scammed his sister. Fernando, fake name 23, is my boyfriend. He has a sister, Luisa, also fake name 26, who lives in Bogota, Colombia. Luisa and her baby girl live in quite an impoverished part of town, about 2 hours with public transport from the city center. Recently, Luisa and the father of her child decided to buy a plot of land, with the hope of eventually building a house for themselves. They talked to this estate agent and paid him almost all of their savings, in cash. Fernando told me that it's not uncommon for more impoverished people in Colombia not to use banks or have bank accounts. After they paid him the money, the guy stopped replying to their calls or messages and started ghosting them, because of which they started digging into him and discovered that this guy has loads of fake profiles on Facebook and lots of properties and plots of land that he's claiming are his to sell. They felt hopeless after discovering this. It dawned on them that they lost a ton of money, basically all their savings. This was their hope at a fresh start. Hearing this, Fernando told her that he'd help them out. He took an old unused Facebook profile he had and changed the name on it. By replacing his profile picture, he made himself look like new money. Profile picture in front of a pool, a big house and fancy cars in the background. He also bought a new SIM card and got in touch with this guy. He pretended to be interested in purchasing a property, and they agreed to meet. Fernando told me the guy was quite trusting and naive himself, buying all of Fernando's nonsense about his wealth and his desire to buy a house. They agreed on a property Fernando was to put a deposit on, and so Fernando asked for his bank account to make the transaction. And the guy was like, "I'm having troubles with the bank. I'd much rather we do this with cash." So Fernando told him he could only give him a few thousands through cash, and not the full amount. They had agreed to meet yesterday in front of his letting agency. Instead, Fernando called the police. He arranged that they would be nearby with his sister and her partner, and just in case, Fernando put some heavy branches in his backpack, giving the illusion that it had a lot of cash inside. On the day, Fernando told the guy, "I'm here, but I can't see you. Send me your live location." So the other guy did, which Fernando forwarded to his sister, who was with the police at that time. As the guy was talking to Fernando on the phone, the police and his sister could hear his every word. Fernando finally met the con man outside the agency, who was nervously looking around to make sure they were alone. It was at this moment that the police jumped in and caught him. They discovered 9 fake IDs on him, as well as hundreds of pages of counterfeit property ownership, similar to the ones that Fernando's sister Luisa was given. As they were arresting him, he tried to plead and even attempted to bribe the police, who luckily wasn't having any of it. We don't know yet if this story will have a happy ending. Luisa does not have a whole lot of evidence regarding the cash transaction, and is unlikely to get the cash back through the court system. I am proud beyond words of my boyfriend basically organizing a sting operation, but it breaks my heart that Luisa and her daughter have been conned off of a fresh start. So for now, you could say this was a have vengeance. Next story. She started an 8, then went to 11 real quick. To set the scene, a well-known athletic shoe store is having its annual big sale with 40% off regular priced shoes and an additional 50% off already marked down clearance. My husband works a physical job, has foot problems, and this particular brand of shoes keeps his pain to a minimum. He does go through shoes quickly due to the miles he puts on them, and what he walks through as he does. So we always watch for this sale to stock up. He is also a smaller guy. He's 40 and covered in tattoos, but with a baby face and shorter than me by half a foot. He wears a men's size 7, which is sometimes in the kids section, and is sometimes the smallest in the men's section. This year he also got hurt at work, so his dominant arm is in a sling and he's struggling doing simple tasks, such as putting on and trying his shoes, shaving and such. He's currently sporting about 4 days of unshaven face. It should also be noted that this takes place in winter, about a month ago now. In New England, we are dressed for winter, with me in a large coat with fake fur trim and a winter hat. Our one mistake was sleeping in on a Saturday, and then going to the store, which was an hour drive away. When we got there, the place was a disaster. The few employees that weren't on a register were running around wildly trying to help people. All of the outside walls of the store have been stocked with clearance, along with some of the aisles, but there are boxes of shoes all over the floor from people just leaving them behind, instead of putting them back. I find one of the seats in a corner to sit my husband in. Due to his height, he often gets bumped into by people not paying attention, and with his injury, that will cause him a lot of needless pain / additional injury. He hates being effectively babied like this, but well, he has no choice at the moment. I then enter the fray, pulling as many different pairs of shoes in his size / styles. I then enter the fray, pulling as many different pairs of shoes in his size / styles I know he likes as I can find, and then bringing the lot back to him. I then help him try them on as one would, by putting them on his feet, helping him tie and so on. While I helped him, we talked about where we might go for lunch and our dog's recent behavior, peppered with comments about the shoes. He picks 3 pairs on clearance and I go to put the rest back on the shelves. As I turn around, I come face to face with a woman who, along with her female adult companion and their multiple children, have been relishing in making the mess bigger. She's snarling at me and barks, "Finally!" with an exasperated sigh as she plops herself on a seat. "Now I need 4 pairs of pink sneakers in this style." She holds up her foot. From the clearance, of course. In these specific sizes. Yeah, even finding 1 pair of pink shoes in any size was unlikely. This is a clearance. The ugly shoes are the ones left. "Sorry, ma'am, I don't work here, but I think the ladies section is..." "Nonsense. I just watched you help that kid over there." Then she asks him, "Where is your mom anyway?" "Seriously, lady? Even if he was 12 or something, he could buy shoes alone. Also, if you really think he's a kid, why isn't your next assumption that I'm his mother?" Of course, he gets really embarrassed and, as he tends to be quite shy, looks down and turns red. Me, a bit curtly, "Yeah, that's my husband." And I go to walk around her. "Don't you lie to me. If he was, why would you be putting his shoes on like that?" I look back at my husband and we make this lady's nuts face at each other. I look back at my husband and we make this lady's nuts face at each other. I roll my eyes and at this point I choose to ignore her. Before changing careers, I worked retail for 20 plus years, all the way up to store manager. 60 to 70 hours a week dealing with crazy customers sent me back to school. And now I work 9 to 5 in a nice quiet cube farm. I'm no longer paid to placate people like her. Apparently my ignoring her angers the beast, and as I reach up to put a box on a shelf, I'm yanked backwards by the neck. She's pulling on the hood attached to my coat. I trip on a box that is on the floor, spin around wide-eyed, and before I can say a word, she screams in my face, "Give me the shoes, I want it now!" Suddenly, a wild manager appears, drawn by her screaming, and runs up. "Hi ladies, can I help you with anything today?" "I want this rude brat fired." "I don't work here." I walk back over to my husband, who is now standing and trying to control his anger, and grabbed a stack of 3 boxes that he has selected on the floor. We turned and walked away, and in an instant, she stormed over and knocked the boxes out of my hands, directly into him and his slinged arm. He screams in pain, clutching his arm, and my attention goes immediately to him. When I look back up, the manager has moved in between the lady and us, and she is yelling about how I'm a liar. The manager is trying to see if my husband is okay. We are just trying to leave the situation before anything else happens. The manager gives a half smile, helps me pick up the boxes, and we walk towards the lengthy register line. As we wait at the front, we can still hear her tirade. And then the most beautiful sight of police officers entering the store appears. The woman is soon after escorted out of the store by the officers. The funny part to us is that her companion and herd of children, from the very start of the confrontation, have pretended not to know her, even though they have been obviously connected before then. They stayed in the store and continued shopping as she was brought out. We did have to make a small statement to the officers, and we did press personal charges. After talking with the cops, the manager did bring out our purchase personally, and he scanned an additional discount card. We ended up with 3 pairs of shoes for $40. Next story. Make my life hell at multiple jobs? I'll get you fired. Backstory. In the early 2000s, I worked for an overpriced CD store. I really liked my job aside from one co-worker, Karen. We just didn't get along. I made the best of it. But she was a borderline bully. Of course, she gets promoted to key holder and proceeds to turn into a full-blown power trip bully. She made my life hell. And a job that I previously loved I couldn't stand anymore. I made a formal complaint that made its way to HR, but I was done working there, which was her goal. Of course, when HR investigated my claims, they found she and the assistant manager were dating. Oops. And she was moved to another store since fraternizing was against policy. Apparently, she didn't like that store and quit. A few months later, I was happily working at a defunct bookstore. And who gets a job at the defunct bookstore at another mall? Karen. Over the next few months, she proceeded to do little things to annoy me, like hanging up when I would call their store for a customer or leave me on hold forever. Of course, I would get in trouble for not effectively handling the customer with their needs. The revenge. About 6 months into the job, I heard through the grapevine of store gossip that Karen had been injured in a car accident. Apparently, she had hurt her back and went on medical leave. She couldn't stand for more than 10 minutes at a time without excruciating pain. This is important. She was on indefinite leave, and her store could not hire anyone to replace her while on medical leave, leaving them short-handed, and I knew her manager was really annoyed after a few months. 2 months later, a few friends of mine and I decided to go play pool. A former co-worker, Rick, from the overpriced CD store was there. Rick says, "Man, too bad you weren't here last night. It would have been a reunion. Karen and the assistant manager were here playing pool." Huh? Karen was playing pool? Oh yeah, they come in every Wednesday night. Really? That's interesting. Every Wednesday, huh? How long has this been going on? A few months now. Yes, for the entire time she was on medical leave, Karen was out playing pool once a week, not at home in debilitating pain like she claimed. The next day, I went to her defunct bookstore and asked to speak to the manager. I told him all about her weekly pool sessions and encouraged him to be at the pool hall the next Wednesday night to catch her in action. And that Thursday, she was fired. The last time I saw her, she and her friend were attempting to follow me home from work. I called the police and led them into the police station, where they told her to leave me alone or be arrested. And she stayed away from me after that. Next story. Lady at Bath and Body Works Candle Day. My teenage daughter asked me to pick up a couple of candles for her on the annual Candle Day. That was pre-COVID. at Bath and Body Works. And little did I know she was pulling one over on me. Crowds make me cringe. You absolutely will not find me out fighting over items on Black Friday. If someone really wants something that bad, they must need it more than I do. Anyway, I'm standing in this pool of fairly friendly people, waiting for our turn to check out the candle selection. I put my earbuds, with a cord because I'm not cool. I put it in and had music going quietly to help control my anxiety. Suddenly, a well-to-do looking woman taps me on the shoulder and is yakking at me with a pissed off look on her face. I pull my earbuds out of my ears and politely say, "I'm sorry, I had my music playing." "What did you say?" She shoves a coupon 4 inches from my face and says, "I said, can I use this one on the candles?" "Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm not really sure. Let's ask someone." I start looking around to see if I can spot an employee. My god. Well, you work here, don't you? I glance down at my hairstylist attire. Solid black everything. I wonder how she could have mistaken me for an employee here. I tell her, "I'm sorry, I don't." With that, she threw her hands up in the air and stormed out of the store, mumbling to herself. She was obviously upset that she couldn't just command some random person to answer her coupon question. Still trying to figure out if I really looked like an employee or if I just looked like a person who knows stuff. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.